What is going on, everybody? It's your favorite killer on the run, Jinn here, and we are back with another recent video. And in today's video, the long overdue gear showcase is finally here. It's only been put off for like 2 months, you know. But so yeah, in this video I'll kind of be going over the reason I built my units a certain way, as well as units that I am building and how I'd like to build them, as well as kind of the units that I do not have like completely finished, or the way that I want them, how I would where I want to take my units. So yeah, I'll just go into like artifacts and stuff first. Like I have a lot of artifacts. Like I have 2 Draco plates. I pulled 1 and the other one was from the event. 2 limit break border coin. I've pulled like 4 Sigrets this is? This is 1 plus 2, and that's another one. I tend to try and keep copies of artifacts, at least 2, just to have them. So that's why you don't really see a lot of duplicate. That's why a lot of my artifacts are only like 1 limit broken, 2 limit broken max, because I try to keep copies of them unless they're very niche. Like Iron Fan you won't need to, or Bloodstone you don't need to, so I just don't really keep it. Yeah, I'm 3 limit broken on the Spirit's Breath. I have 2 Edicas and 2 Crowns. I have pulled a lot of Albers. Like, and it makes me sad because I bought one from the powder shop and then I pulled 3 more. And that kind of sucked, but it was whatever. I have 3 idle shears. I don't know if I'm going to keep this 3rd one or not. I've kind of just been thinking about it because I don't really need 3 idle shears at the current point in time, but I know that if I need a 3rd one and don't have it, I'll be mad. Right? I'm leveling up the 2nd Celestine for Rowana. But yeah, for the most part, that's kind of it. When you get into the forest, it's literally just I have kind of 2 of every limit broken one. I only have 3 portraits. It's not too many. It's kind of like the bare minimum for a lot of players. This one isn't even. It's not even max limit broken, so I can't really do much with that. And yeah, if people are wondering like how much I farm, I don't farm too much. Nope, it's gonna be level. So what? That's 3 rows, 6 rows, 7.5 rows. That's not even that much, I think. I got mainly just 90 pieces that, like when I was early on in the game, I needed a lot of bad pieces. But now that I've kind of like smartened up, I'm kind of not wasting my mats. Like this sword, kind of bad. I also have a chest which is horrible. Like this chest is absolutely horrible. And I 90'd it because I was like, oh yeah, my Charles is like so good, which it really wasn't, but I don't know. And I 90'd it, and I really regret that because I could have used those mats for better gear. But for the most part, that's what it is. But yeah, let's get into the gear showcase. Also, if I find out how to segment the video, I will be doing that in the description. Not in the description, but in the what's it, the timeline, I guess? But we'll see. So yeah, Cermia. So why did I build her fast? Like, cause there's a huge debate about if you build her super slow with a shit ton of damage and just oxlots her up, or if you kind of make her self-sustainable with higher speed. And personally, I like going higher speed because I use her in GVG, and for the most part in GVG, you're not running into 200 speed Charleses. You're usually on counter, and in those teams where it's like FCC plus Charles plus SSB or something, having a fast Cermia and then a secondary nuker like a Yufine, I just nuke out the SSB with the Yufine, and then I can nuke out the Charles with my Cermia, and then there's honestly no threat left, because FCC isn't going to solo me3 against 2 DPS and an Oxlots. For the most part. Usually she gets the kill, but my Cermia is unhumanly tanky. Like right now, like she does not need to be this tanky. I need to just try and find a way to convert all of these HP sets into just offenses, like attack, speed, crit chance, crit damage, because she doesn't need all this bulk. Like 1000 defense, 1100 HP is like, that's not even that tanky, but it's tanky enough for it to be taking stats away, right? So like obviously you can't get attack on the chest piece, but there is a lot. Like this helmet, it's fine. This has 8% HP, that's just how that rolled. But like this has 16 defense, this has HP on base, and this is just dark. This is horrible. Like I need to change that boot. Like it annoys me. But the Holiday Yufine is stripped, but I do want to build her because she's actually really good. I don't have a Champions Trophy, which is unfortunate, but I feel like in RTA and stuff, she does do a little bit of work. A lot of work depending on how many burns she lands. And although she can't land the stuns, which would be huge, I feel like she can still do work with her CR push and her D spells. The fact that she decreases CR manipulation for the whole team is really nice, but it's only by 50% of the base amount. And on being unaffected by elemental advantage and having constant AoEs would be good against something like an S10A. Because usually if somebody drafts an S10A, they're not expecting much AoE. And Holiday Yufine can put out a surprising amount if people aren't ready for it. Here's my ARAS. He's slower than a lot of like the higher tier ARASes, which is fine. Like I'm not really building him to be like 250 speed and just put up death buff. But he has a lot of effectiveness instead. And the worst feeling is when you kind of just like go for a death break on a unit and it just gets resisted or it doesn't even proc. And I know that sucks, and there's nothing you can do about it because I'm pretty sure it's only 60%, right? Wait, how was it? Yes, it's only 60%. But I feel like if you want to go for the death break, you're gonna want effectiveness. And like obviously I think 100 is a lot. It's not even on an effectiveness main ring. It's just off substats. But yeah, like I think this works out well. Like every piece has effectiveness, I think. Some more than others. Yeah, every piece has effectiveness and every piece has like a roll into it. But yeah, he can get 20k HP if I were to imprint concentration in him, but I feel like that's kind of not worth. Like I know his damage scales on his HP and his lifesteal on his S3 scales off his HP. Like I get that, but I just kind of don't feel like it. I know if I really wanted to get him to 20k HP, I could do it. All I have to do is 90 some more of his pieces, but I feel like he does his job without 90s, so I feel like he's doing okay. Personally, I think this was a really good build. I built him when I had like no knights built up. Like I think the only knight I had built at the time was Lillias, and that kind of did change now, or it is changing now. But I really think that Adventurer Raz is a really good pickup. Next is my Lillias. She's on the semi-bruiser. I say semi because her crit damage is way too low to be considered a bruiser. But I like to think her defense and her HP are good for a bruiser. Usually you see bruisers who are faster at like 210-ish, and they have higher crit chance crit damage, but they have really low HP. And that's not that big of an issue, because all of her skills kind of bring up better DPS with her. So she's kind of just like a shadow DPS, like she sits there in the background kind of just doing little chip damages along the way. But yeah, I kind of want her to be tanky too, because if anyone knows me, I don't want my units to be glass cannons. I just don't like the concept of a glass cannon. I don't like my units doing one thing and then getting blown up afterwards. Like sometimes it's necessary, like Elena, I don't have the gear for her not to be a one and done type of character, but if I could, I would make her not one and done. But yeah, let me show you real quick. Like I have a ring like what I need. Like if I can get a ring like this, then I will be in heaven, because that means I can just 90 her neck. Although it's not that good, I'd probably want a crit chance on it. But let's see, crit chance, HP. Yeah, like something like Alencia's neck, like this here would be perfect. Like I know it's technically only losing speed because it's not a speed set. Like this looks really good for a bruiser in my opinion. Has good crit damage, max crit's kind of unnecessary, but that's whatever. And it still keeps the bulk. And if I can get gear like this for my Lillias, I'd be super happy. Because if I ever build an FCC as well, if I ever by some miracle get her, I'd also want to build her bruiser. Because I feel like knights that are knights like FCC and Lillias, they have good mods, so why not take advantage of that, right? Cerilla's only really here because I use her for farming. I like Cerila. I've always wanted her. Like, she was like one of the most wanted units at the beginning of the game because I saw that my friend who got me into the game had her and didn't even use her, but I thought, wow, she looks cool. And there have been a couple times where I've seen Cerilla's just while I've been farming adventure and stuff, there would be like a Cerila rep popping up, and they always did a lot of work. So that's why I kind of just built mine. She's not even that good, but she just does she sits around fodder gear and she does her job. Like, don't get me wrong, like she does farm, like she one-taps like everything. But she one-taps everything, which is the issue because it takes a while. Choux. Oh lord. Issue with Choux is that like there are some known issues with Choux, right? And okay, I did something with my my recording software and the thing is gone. Oh well. Anyways, the issue with Choux is that their only redeeming factor is that her S2 does a shit ton of damage because of death pens. And don't get me wrong, anti-crit is good, but the reason why Diene is so strong with her anti-crit is that it brings an offensive buff with it. Like, it brings anti-crit for 3 turns and attack for 3 turns. So you kind of get to play off both where you get survivability and offense. While Klee just brings 2 turn survivability with RNG no less, and more defense for herself where she puts up immunity. Like, Foosh is really good, right? But like her S1 does nothing. It's just a cycle, and her S3 does I think it does bad damage. Like, I think the mod is pretty bad if memory serves. So I do want to have Choux in my arsenal because having a death pen on S2 is really nice to have. But cause I don't think I have any units that death pen, cause like I don't have a Rylet obviously, which would be like, if I had Rylet, why would I build Choux? Because the death pen. But I don't have Rylet, so I feel like Choux is like my best sub out. Although he doesn't I keep saying he. Although Choux doesn't like provide as much utility as Rylet with the constant fear of your characters getting nuked out, I think she still does okay. Luna's honestly just on PvE gear. She's on lifesteal, like very bad stats. Don't get me wrong, but I don't really use her for PvP anymore. So she's just been relegated to PvE duty. So that's whatever. SSB. So she's a DPS. She's not really a bruiser. She's only a bruiser because of her damage redirection, but she still gets like smacked by like she'll eat a horse and she won't be living that. But I feel like she does damage, a good amount of damage. Like you kind of use her, you can use her as a cleaver if she gets attack buff up, but she does some good damage against tank teams and stuff. And that's where I usually bring her in. Excuse me. That's where I usually bring her in arena offense. It's SSB autos for the most part. So that's why she's on drink. I got it to plus 21 through bottles. I only pulled 1 copy of it. But it's definitely worth getting the chance up just because you don't want there to be a situation where you need the damage to come out and it doesn't. But yeah, for the most part I feel like immunity is a must. Speed set was just because that's the gear I had lying around. These boots I want to change because the ER is kind of wasted. If I could make that ER HP or defense, that'd be really nice. Preferably HP though. That would be like best case scenario, but we'll see. I am hunting for them, but it's a back burner project because I don't really need attack boots right now. And she does her job, so if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's in my opinion. So here's my Dizzy, and she has low effectiveness. But that's because I'm kind of pumping some of those stats into ER. What I want to do is I want to keep these bulky stats, air quotes bulky, and try and get 100 effectiveness and effect resistance. Because all of her awakenings are effectiveness and effect resistance, effectiveness, speed, effect resistance. Yeah, so she gets a... like, I think it's pretty good. Because, although 100 effect resistance isn't enough, it just brings in that extra element of RNG where you try to lock her down and it doesn't work. And especially like if it's on a bad turn, like where she has an S3 up, and that lockdown gets resisted, I feel like that's huge. And another thing is that because she's on counter, certain FCCs try to provoke her, and they just get countered instead, and it just becomes a worse situation for them. So that's kind of like my thought process behind that. Like, if she has 0 ER, she just gets provoked by FCC for the rest of eternity. And then like she kind of doesn't do anything. So that's kind of where immunity would be good. But I'm going to try and build her higher effect resistance so that throughout the battle she has that RNG chance. And that can screw up a lot of teams, especially with Aiella if they try to stack buffs. If they stack buffs at the wrong time, it can just get stripped away. Like there's probably in a situation somewhere where I countered stripping immunity and then S3. Like I think that's happened before. I just don't have like I don't think I posted it, but I've seen it happen on multiple occasions, and that's kind of just like what I find really nice is that her counter is immunity, and if she gets attacked, she can counter her counter, right? So I think that's pretty cool. Momo's gear is super old. It hasn't been updated in a long time, but she still does her job, right? Like now in the meta, 167 effect resistance is nowhere close to enough. Like you need to go into the 250s for things like RTA and stuff. But right now, I only really use her for PvE. Like I think I'll use her for hell raids for the most part, and like 1 or 2 hunts. And that's kind of the extent to where I use a Momo. She has like high effectiveness, all things considered. She's 55, but all of this gear would need to be rehauled just because I'd need to jack up her effect resistance if I wanted to use her in Arena again. Because back before I-90s, this was usable, and like 160 effect resistance was good enough. But now with the 90 meta being out, you cannot expect your debuffers to guarantee resist if you're only at 160. My Angelica is only really used for Wyvern right now, but I feel like she's pretty tanky. If I ever wanted to use her for PvP, I'd probably put one of my dupe idol shears on her, because that's what I used to run back in the day. I used to run Angelica a lot in GVG back when I was still newer to the game. It did a lot of work, because having a healer like this is huge, especially with idol shear. But yeah, kind of now she's been relegated to a beating stick for hunts. But honestly, I'm okay with that. She really did her job on my account, and I'm really happy that I have her. My Diene, I think she's really tanky. Like I think her tank stats are good, but her speed's really low, and so is her ER. Like if I could keep the bulk and get her to like 180 and 140 effect resistance, maybe 160, that'd be perfect. I say 180 because I doubt I can get I doubt I can get 200 with her base. I think her base speed's only like 100, like 105 or something like that. Like her base speed's not in the 110s, I don't believe. Yeah, it's not. It's 102 by the looks of it. But I'm not complaining. Diene's been really good to me. Her barrier strength isn't even mullet. I'm missing 30%. But I've been building too many units right now, so I'm kind of out of molas. That's the main issue. I've just been kind of like, she's doing her job. I don't really need to focus on getting her barrier strength up, because I got the S1, which is the most important part for her counter. I got the max cooldown, and then just barrier strength is left. So I mean, are there situations where the barrier strength would probably save me? Yes, and I do draft Diene a lot. But at the same time, I would rather expand my arsenal for RTA rather than just compound it and have the handful of units I have be OP. They wouldn't even be OP because I'm not a legend player. But just, I feel like she does her job as is, and then when I have the time, I'll finally finish the molas on her S2. So yeah, Alencia, she got changed recently. She used to be on a lot different gear, but she used to have like a little bit more effectiveness, but way less bulk. So I'm really happy with where she is right now. I have her on Draco Plate because I feel like Durandal has been screwing up my speed tuning a lot, because she just like speeds past everything. But yeah, I've been liking Draco Plate. She does a little bit more damage. She gets a little bit more survivability because of the reduced damage from crits. And although she usually gets paired with Adamant Shield, I feel like it's just good to have in those situations where you do not pair her with Adamant Shield. Like if I really wanted to min-max, I could switch Durandal back and forth. But that's kind of whatever. But I think she's also like one of my only units that is full 90 gear. Because Alencia is really solid. But I do need to... If I can, I would like to kind of sub out and get more defense and try and keep the HP or even increase the HP. But right now I have her a little bit on the imprint and concentration. Just so she gets a little bit more attack, that 6% is definitely useful. Like, let me see. Like, the difference is like, pretty big. Somebody's at my door, but there shouldn't be anyone. Anyways. So yeah, that's my Alencia. I think she does well. She could definitely get better, but for now, this is what she's got. My Yufine is kind of just like sits there. Like, she does her job as a nuker in the team I was talking about with Cermia, where it's Oxlots plus Cermia plus Yufine / Lilibet if there's an RB instead of an SSB. And like, she does her job. And like, the reason I built her like kind of this tanky is because of Charles. Because if I hit the Charles, then there's an Elbrus chance, and I'll always have a buff because of the attack buff. So I don't want to have a situation come up where I S3 and don't kill the SSB, and then the Charles kills my Yufine. Because then at that point, the team is done. Because Cermia can't 2v3 an SSB and an FCC. So that's literally the only reason she's built like this. That's why she only has 86% crit. It's just because she's only really going against SSBs, so that'll be 100% crit with the elemental advantage. But yeah, she's on destruction set, so I can try and keep the DPS up while starting to invest in Bruiser's stats. So here's my Charles. And I'm gonna change him. Like, I'll show you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take a Ravi's boots from him, because it increases attack. And like, that would be really good. But the issue is that his defensive stats are really bad. Like, his defense is sub 1k, which is horrible. So what I need to do is I need to hunt for a better immunity or a counter helmet. And like, the stats that I'm looking for, I genuinely do not have on a helmet period right now. Like, let me see if I can find one. Like, I guess this works. And like, that keeps his defensive stats. And that would be like best case scenario if I get attack and defense and HP. Like, that would literally be like a god piece in my situation, but I don't have that gear on the right substats or like on the right set. So Charles has kind of just been like, he does his job, but I know he can do more damage and he does less damage than the usual Charles, which is kind of the issue. Like, I think he's fast for a counter Charles. Usually you see them run HP and attack on the right side as well as the crit damage, but I just opted in for speed instead. And all those boots are good, right? Like, these are gonna go to a Ravi afterwards. It's just it's not what I'm looking for. And I do want to jack up his attack because it just scales so much better with attack buff. And like, he does damage, which is fine, but he could do more, and I want to kind of opt into him doing more damage because he should be a DPS threat. My Flurry is not built well. Like, she's only 175, and I know these boots aren't leveled, but they don't have the subs I want, and they rolled a crit chance, and I kind of just gave up on them. I know that Flurry is really good against Ruele, but I don't have a fast DPS, so that I don't need her to be stupid fast, like 270 speed or something. So what I'm going to try and do is I think I'm going to try and build her at like 100, maybe 200, 210. And then I'm just going to have to eat a Ruele S3 off the bat. And then just hope that, because after the S3 lands, I'll be okay, right? Like, the S3 off the rip is it. And then after that, I can dispel him, and then my other DPS can follow up and kill him. So Flurry is definitely like a huge unit to build, especially for me because Ruele shits on my account right now. But yeah, I haven't got the gear for my Flurry to look like it's in a spot where I want to use her. Because I'm going for a slower build, I need her to be tankier. Like, if she was a 270 speed, it'd just be like, whatever, you could make her like 1000 defense, 1500 HP. Because she's gonna outspeed everything, but because I'm building her slower, I need her to be tanky. Best case scenario, I build her like 210, which I think is doable because then in GVG situations I can bring her with Cermia and just duo nuke them. Next is Baiken. She's honestly just holding gear at this point. I keep thinking that I can build her for a Banshee one-shot, but I don't have the gear. And like, I know the gear that I need, and I could probably force it. I just don't have the gear left over. Iseria, I really need to rebuild for RTA. Like, she's actually like a sleeper unit for RTA. Not a lot of people have her builds because those people are just relegated to PvE duty. But I feel like she's really good, and also kind of like as my selective summon unit, I kind of want to play with her. You know, like, she was the character that I started the game with, and she still gets some use. Like, she still gets used in Tam's area comps, right? But this gear is super old. Like, I put this arena gear on when it came out, and then I haven't changed her gear since. And she has no 90s either, so I do want to build her. So eventually, when I get the time and I get the gear, I will build my Iseria up again and make her better and actually usable for RTA and stuff. Here's my last rider, Krau. He's slower than most, but it's because his boots are 90, and a lot of his gear doesn't have substat rolls. But what I find with the faster LR Kraus is that their defense is lower. And you might not think that's too bad, but in situations where the barrier happens and then they miss, you want higher defense because you don't want misses nuking out your units. Like, that's the whole thing about speedy DPS Dizzies, is that defense is make or break for her cleave. Because it's a miss, it's attack and defense. So because HP won't really matter because she's doing less. Like, obviously HP's gonna matter, but defense is what's gonna save you from a SSB. Defense is what's gonna save you from a Dizzy cleave. And overall, you don't want your tanks to be low defense just because it's meant to be taking hits. So you want defense on your tanks. But her, what's wrong with my pronouns today? But I feel like his HP is fine, his defense is fine, speed's low, and the ER is working on it. Both these pieces are going to get replaced eventually, and I want them to have ER on them. Like, if I can get a ring with 20 defense, speed, and defense instead of crit chance, that'd be huge. But I don't have that right now. And then these boots are sour. The last roll rolled crit damage, which was unfortunate, but that's just kind of how that works. And then the adamant shield's on him. I might switch him to Aureus and then put my Lillias on adamant. We'll have to see. Next is Surin. Recently built, and I'm still replacing some of her gear. Like, let me show you. Before, I had this sword on her, and it's like horrible. Where did it go? It's none of these swords. It's not counter sets. That's how I was like, none of these swords are right. Yeah, she used to look like this, and I'm like, this is so bad. I'm like, this is because this is what I used to have my holiday Yufine on back when she was built on lifesteal for a bruiser. And that fell through, so I kind of stripped her, and she used to look like that. So now, like, this helmet does like nothing for her. Like, it has the crit, sure, but like, you don't need the HP, and I don't really need the effectiveness. So she has 2 wasted substats that rolled into it heavily. So I need to find a better helmet, and that chest piece could definitely get replaced. The defense is useless practically, and I only really use the speed and the crit damage, and the HP I guess is nice to have, but not what I need. And I literally fed my normal Surin into this to get her 6-starred. So that's why she's SSS. I haven't pulled that many Surins, and if you actually see, I never use Surin anyways, because I never cleave. So I'm just doing with what I have, and Surin being anti-cleave, I needed that way more than a speed imprint for a speed cleave that I never use, right? So, and I finally found a use for my Alexa's basket. I was debating if I put her on something like a Violet Talisman that I have 4-star limit broken, and I've foddered 3 other ones. So, like, literally, I could have had a maximum unbroken Violet Talisman, but I foddered them all the way before he got buffed. So that kind of sucks. Elia's knife isn't too useful, but when it comes, like, when it procs, it does a lot of damage. See, I want to get her attack up, and I want to like drop her defensive stats. Like 1000 defense looks clean, and but it's just not practical. Like, she doesn't need that much defensive subs, if any. Here's my Lidica. She's not used for cleave. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make her a bruiser with tank and still have speed. Like, if I could, which I'm practically there. I want to keep her at like 220 speed, or like 220, 230, but I want her to do a little bit of damage as well as not be glass cannon. And like I know 1000 defense, 1100 HP is somewhat tanky. I want it way higher. Like I want like 1150 to 1200 defense and 1300 HP, as well as keeping these stats, which I know is a far reach, but I feel like I can do it. And if I can, then I definitely use Lidica more in PvP, because people will it's either they start to tank up against me, which is good, it'll go into a long fight, which is what I want, or they try to speed cleave me, which would be best case scenario, because then I just tank up afterwards, and then they ban the Lidica, most likely. Because Lidica is a unit where if you let her through and you get outsped, you kind of just lose, even if it's a bruiser team behind her. That's because she does the skill null, and then she does the CR push, and she does dispel, and like her kit's really stacked, especially with her decreased hit chance on this one. Like I know I have her S imprint, but that's literally just off Lidica dupes. I've put a lot of Lidicas throughout my E7 career, with air quotes. So I felt like it's kind of a waste to have her just be relegated to bench duty. But I like Lidica. She's like my favorite unit for the longest time, ever since I pulled her and saw her design. I was like, wow, this unit's really nice. So yeah, I pulled her, and then I've kind of just been she's just my rep hero, honestly, at the end of the day. Like I do use her for control comps in GVG, but that's kind of like the extent to her use. And she's not fast enough for cleaving, obviously. She might be fast enough for like a turn 2 cleave, but then she's not tanky enough, right? So that's kind of the dilemma that I'm in, is that I think her base survival stats are so low that I need to pump so many stats into her survivability that I'm losing out on other stats, or I might just have to forego her doing damage completely and just go bruise her speed. We'll see. Silverblade Aramintha has been on this gear forever, like for forever. And I honestly just like don't use her that often, but when she does her job, and like you can tell it's been a while since I've used her, because this is her sword, and it's an I-67. But I feel like for counter, her stats are okay. Her HP could get a little bit higher, but she has the same issue with like S10A, right? Because they're the same sign, that her HP is just so low that it's so hard to get her to be tanky. So for the most part, you kind of gotta jack up her defense and pray that she doesn't get death broken, or else she literally becomes paper. But for the most part, I think she does okay. You're usually not drafting her just as a solo DPS. You're usually building her as a duo DPS with a Knights for Dispel and Protection along the way. So with something like a Lillias, she does okay. And I was talking shit about the change to add Unhealable to her S3 back when it was first announced. And now that I've used it, what I was worried about actually isn't a thing. The Unbuffable actually goes before the stun, so the stun doesn't get dispelled, which is huge. That actually changes MLR in a lot of ways, because a lot of the heals, if they're not just full heal plus cleanses plus full heals, they are 1 at a time, or like 2 at a time. And if it's 2 at a time, I think it'll get the Unhealable and the stun. But if it's just a 1 dispel, they'll get the Unhealable. They won't even heal off their dispel. And then MLR gets to start rolling with her S1 into S2 combo, putting a shit ton of burns out. And that's kind of where the fun of MLR is just using S1, burning somebody, and then getting S2, and then burning somebody, and then having the RNG behind a stun. Which is, when it lands, it's absolutely insane, but then it just feels really bad when you don't land a stun, because you're doing so many attacks on so many units. You expect to hit more stuns than you actually do. Maid Chloe's on super old gear. This was not a worthwhile 90, and this was like I 90 this gear when I first cleared A12 and 13, because I used Maid Chloe a lot at that time. But now with all the introductions of units like Blood Moon Haste and Landy and all those units, Alencia being super meta, she kind of just doesn't do a lot. And a build like this kind of like it just doesn't do enough. In RTA, she's practically useless because she doesn't do anything on off turns besides a revive. and her heal isn't enough to make a difference. I feel like if she did an AoE heal instead of a her plus single target, then she'd maybe be usable, but then she'd maybe be OP, because she does heal for a good amount. She heals for like 2k. Like 2k, 3k. But if I am gonna ever use Maid Chloe again, it would be that I have to jack the shit out of her speed and make her like 250 or something with Water's Origin, so that she's kind of anti-cleave. Like if you try to RB cleave it and you're too slow, or if you try to Ruele it, then you just push her up and then she'd put revive buff up, and then that's kind of where an issue lies, where you have the whole team with attack buff and revive before all of your I mean, I guess that's the issue with these spellers again, is that they're usually slower. So that, or another reason you use Maid Chloe is you put her on counter and just meme people with stuns and stuff, but that's just a niche. Like I don't think that it would even work out. Like I'd have to see. Like I do farm a lot of B13, not a lot recently, but I do have a 3-man comp for B13, so I have a reason to farm it a lot more. But yeah, I might try her on counter to see how that goes, or I might try her super fast. But those are kind of like the only builds that I see Maid Chloe being used on. Like a super tank Maid Chloe, it kind of doesn't do much anymore because of the introduction of all these units that counter stack buffs in Landy, and then that counter revives in Blood Moon Haze. And there's probably a lot more units that I'm just forgetting to list. Lidica despells attack buff or revive, and both of which kind of neuter the unit. Sinji literally craps on Maid Chloe because they just don't get to revive, and then you blow your S3 for nothing. And yeah, it just kind of sucks that Maid Chloe was such a good unit when I pulled her, and then I built her, and then she kind of just got nerfed immediately. Like not even directly nerfed, she got indirectly nerfed. For like I only used her for like a month, and then BMH came out. So that kind of sucked. So I kind of just gave up on stuff like her Molas. Like I was gonna max out this because she needs it for her heals, but now that all those units are out that counter her, it kind of just sucks. Ruele, I don't like my Ruele right now. Like she's tanky. Like she has the tank that I want, but she doesn't have the speed. Like, let me see if I could. I don't have a defense percent neck, which is what I would run on her because I want to keep her defenses up. I could do something like this, and then it'd be like this, and then an HP percent neck, and then it'd be like that. Nice. Why is the defense so high? Wait, why is the defense so high? When I was, oh right, because the boots are still on defense. I was about to say, I was like, what? Yeah, no, something like this. Like she keeps her defensive subs. She gets faster, and she'll lose a little. So she'll have a little bit lower F-res. So she'll be like 140 at the best, because I want both the ring and the neck to have or the ring and the boots to have effect resistance. So she'll be at like 140, probably. Cause like if I do something like this, then she gets the speed, but her defense is so low. She's like paper. Cause the issue with Ruele is that she has the highest base defense in the game, so you want to take advantage of that. That's the only reason people can build her so tanky and still have good stats. But right now, this ring and these boots are horrible, and I hate it. That's why I've 90'd everything else but these. And that's definitely gonna need to change, and it definitely can change. So that's what I'm gonna do. I've been looking for the replacement gear. They're both immunity, which means I have to farm a lot of A13. And that's kind of the issue with my account, is that I need a lot of different gear pieces from a lot of different hunts, and I don't have the stamina to farm all of those hunts. So like right now I think I'm farming B11 so that I can get my T Surin gear, but that's the issue. I'm farming B13 and not A13 so that my Ruele never gets the improvements that she needs because I don't farm that hunt, right? So yeah, that's kind of like the issue. Like the overlying issue with my account is that I have so many different units that I want to fix, and I know how to fix them, but I need to farm every different hunt. Here's my Apocalypse Ravi. I'll just show you what she'd look like with the Charles boots, because that's what she'll be taking after the swap. So she'd look like this. She'd get a shit ton more defense, and that'd be like super good. And that chess piece is horrible. I hate this chess piece, but I don't have better right now. So that's kind of like the main issue with my Ravi. Like, I don't have any good chess pieces. Like, if I take this, then she doesn't get any HP, and then I haven't rolled any crit chance chess pieces. Because they all have effectiveness. And I'm like, why do they all have effectiveness? For no reason. Like, they have effectiveness or they have effect resistance. And I don't like that. But, yeah, if I... Like, I'm not looking for it. It's not worth crafting crit chance chess pieces, because you're only going to use it for niche units. But, like, along the way, if I get a better chess piece, this will get subbed out so fast. Like, all I need is health and crit damage and crit chance, and the speed is whatever. So, that would be nice. Very little 90 gear. Like, her helmet is 90'd, because it rolled relatively okay, and the attack is kind of wasted. Her ring has effectiveness, which is yikes, and her boots have more attack, which could be better used on a different character like Charles. That's what I'm thinking about. Because she honestly doesn't need the attack that much. But yeah, that's kind of where I want to take her. Now, the topic of discussion a lot for me is counter Specter. And you're like, and I get why people get confused about it, right? It's the whole question of why would you have a unit on counter that doesn't get hit? And I get that. But then I ask you to think about, in the meta, how many units do AoEs? And you're probably like, you know what, there's not that many. Like, you're not getting cleave that often. She's too squishy to survive a cleave without nightmare stacks. I get that, and she won't. But with times 5 nightmare stacks, she gets the 2k defense. I did the math on it. Which I feel like is really good. 2k defense, 1100 HP. That's super tanky. But of course she's going to be tanky after nightmare stacks times 5. That's what every Specter is like. But back on topic of how many do AoEs, right? Let me just run you through it. Holiday Yufine does an AoE and can get countered, right? It's not trying to do attack. Yeah, she can get countered. Adventurer Braz S3 is a counter. Lillias S3 is a counter, and if she brings a Dizzy with him, then that's another chance to counter. Choux does a counter. SSB does a... She does an AoE, or sorry, she doesn't do a counter. She does an AoE. SSB does an AoE, but that's kind of iffy. That's kind of iffy because sometimes the SSB will just kill. Dizzy only does AoEs. She gets countered a lot. So people tend to think that, oh yeah, Dizzy can counter Specter, and you just chip her down, but she'll be nerfed so she doesn't do a lot of damage. Like, that's fine. Alencia does AoEs. Charles does AoEs. Last Rider Krau does AoEs, but he puts up immunities, so I guess the gimmick of countering, cheesing plus stunning it doesn't work. Tempest Surin does counters, but I don't think even if I stun her, I think the stun just gets washed off on the next turn because of her passive. Lidica can get countered. SBA, her only like AoE is a passive, so you can't get countered. But Kayron also seen as a counter to Specter. But you know, the issue is that you can't counter an S10 if she lives, counters, and stuns you, right? So like obviously it's not gonna happen a lot because a lot of Kayrons will just beat S10 out because of Soulburn S1 being such a good nuke. Like AoE. Only Soulburn. Like if they don't Soulburn it, like she doesn't die to an S1 counter for Kayron. And like there have been times in multiple videos where my Specter has even lived Arby's S3 after a revive with greater attack. And I feel like you don't get that in other S10s. They would literally just pop every time. But cause like drafting her into certain teams, like ML Ken is another one who you don't expect to do an AoE, but he does. He does an AoE and it does a death break and it gives himself an attack buff. And if you counter him, you could stun him and then just kill him. Like, it doesn't matter how much HP and defense he has if he's stunned for the turns that he needs to lifesteal back his HP. Right? So that's kind of like my thought process behind it. And then I kind of like... Yeah, that's like the whole thing about my... Like, I build units for niche situations because you don't realize how much they come up. Like, I have nothing against a speed S10. Like, a 200 speed S10A with more attack would probably be better, and it does more damage. But I like this S10A more because she can get used in more situations. And there have been multiple times where I've had my S10A clutch RTA and GVG when my whole team dies and she just goes off and she counters everything. And because she hits 2 units with her counter after she has S3 on cooldown, she can kill enemies that would kill her, and then she can kill the unit that made her counter. Like, there was a GVG where it was an RB and a Vivian S1'd her. No, it was an RB S1'd her. My S10A countered, killed the Vivian with the counter, and almost killed the RB, and then she went and killed the RB again. Or like, and just killed the RB. And I won that RTA match because she was on counter. And like, that's a situation where she's like, I get it that it's niche and it's like, you're already supposed to win that, but pulling out those like little wins every here and there are like what gets you to like the higher levels. And I feel like that's good. And like, although it's a niche, right? And like, once people start knowing that, oh yeah, this guy's a counter as 10A, then the novice kind of falls off. But I feel like it's still usable. And then there's the Abyssal Crown, which is good to have because she attacks 2 targets. That's whatever. That's kind of just like, obviously no duh. She hits double the amount of units compared to most. So put an Abyssal Crown on her. She gets double the mileage out of a stun. Tammarinne is just relegated to PvE. I'm honestly like a huge rank. It's like I'm coming into an hour-long video. But that's honestly whatever. Tammarinne hasn't been used on a very long time. She's honestly just PvE. Like, I do use her for Iseria sometimes, but she's never gonna be outspeeding the units you want her to. Like, you're never gonna Iseria cleave somebody in Champion Arena. Which is not what I'm going for. It's honestly just I hope she survives, and then once she survives, she can get idle form up, and that's kind of where my other DPS people that I bring with her can shine. I do want to kind of try out a Ravi, but I just don't have the gear for it. Cecillia, I crafted this for her, and then I tried to gear her, and it didn't work, and I kind of gave up because she needs so many molas. So that's kind of niche. I just bought the skin because I wanted to. Kayron is a unit that I will actually build, but I don't know how to build him. Like, I don't know if I want to build him with speed boots, right? Actually, everything's speed set, so I can just go speed, crit chance, crit damage, and like, I can just take Spectane's gear, whatever, and then I can go attack. Yeah, like something like this. Like, he'd be 200 speed, which definitely isn't fast, right? Don't get me wrong. And he'd do some decent damage, I think. Like, I think he'd come out to 3,100 attack after the 6-star, right? Because what his last one's attack. No, it's speed, so you'd be faster. But again, the issue with molas on my account is definitely prevalent because I pulled him and he has gear and he has 0 molas. Because he literally needs plus 12. He needs max mola in his S3 and the S1 because you can't go without that damage or else he doesn't do what he needs to do. But I do want to build Kayron because I don't have an RB, I don't have a Ruele, I don't have all of those like super good AoE DPSs to deal with things like Spectanes. If somebody drafts a Spectania against me, as well as a Rowana, I'm screwed. Because all of my AoEs for the most part counter. Like my SSB will counter, my Dizzy is on counter, my Alencia isn't on counter, but her S1, S2 is a combo attack and that would heal. Charles counters. Last Rider Krau is a new pull, so I guess it's kind of okay, but he doesn't kill an S10A. Surin is also a new pickup, so maybe she can deal with Spectanes. I don't know. I haven't tested her against Spectanes, so I don't know. What's next? I bought the Lidica skin just because I had spare tickets, and I was like, might as well. But I don't think I'm ever gonna gear her. Like, I've pulled a lot of her. Like, I literally got rid of a B imprint Lidica because I had another one. So I've put a lot of Lidicas. But Chloe is only for Wyvern 13. This is her gear right now. Like, you never see the kind of what goes on in the background for Wyvern 13. It kind of just like runs while you're doing other things. But she's only Wyvern. Like, you can use it for PvP, don't get me wrong. The magic nail, I'm pretty sure has a chance to stun. Yeah. 25% chance to stun for 1 turn when you hit it. And that can come up sometimes in PvP because it's unresistible. I'm pretty sure. So you could just have a nail on a Ruele and then it'll just randomly stun her because Magic Nail procced. And I feel like that's like a niche use for Chloe in PvP, is that she has an unresistible DDJ practically that you can put on a unit, and it counts as a debuff. So that like oh my lord, I'm stuttering a lot. So if you have like a unit with rage or something, they can do a lot of damage because it's a debuff, and it's also does bonus damage afterwards. But she's honestly just she's a Wyvern 13 slave. My Sigret is also a Wyvern 13 slave, but she can probably get used in PvP. Like, her starts are pretty good, but the set for PvP is useless because she's usually getting Ocelots pushed, if anything. So she doesn't need the S3. I mean, maybe I could use her in against those FCC Charles and RB teams. Like, I could S2 S1 FCC, and then I could Extinction RB. I'm not too sure about that, and DVG kind of isn't the place where I'd want to try that. And the only teams that it would matter against is usually teams that we need every attack to count, so I don't want to int for my guild just to try it if Sigret works for PvP. Maybe I could in the future, we'll see. I'll definitely make a video about me inting with Sigret because I'm trying her out. But yeah, right now she's at like a lot of 90 here because it's honestly pretty good. Like 15 speed and has HP and attack. And like this next not bad. That's literally just because I needed speed boots on hit set to get the effectiveness that I needed. And Krau, honestly, I don't use. I don't like Krau. His whole personality kind of peeves me, so I don't like using him. But I might need to build him up eventually because he is like one of the best tanks in the game, because he's one of the only tanks in the game that S3 will kill anything and almost everything, depending on how much HP he has. So I get the power of Krau, don't get me wrong. I just don't like Krau. Like, Last Rider Krau, he's okay, I guess. But that's just because he's an ML. That's kind of like the only reason. So congrats on the ambitious time one person. But it's kind of like the only reason. Like right now he's just relegated to a PvE and that's it. I just don't like using him. But Rose is a character that I did want to build, and I did try to build, and then just didn't work because I didn't have speed gear. So that's kind of the story of my life. I don't have speed gear. That's why I don't draft speed, and that's why I kind of don't care about building cleavers. Like crap, my BBK is still 5-star because I don't cleave. But if I do get better speed gear, I do want to build a Rose because she is really good. Like a well-built Rose that can cycle her S3 can almost keep, like, it can keep an attack buff up all the time, and she is annoying to face a good tanky speedy Rose. Like they'll have attack buff the whole time, and then they'll have Aureus and Adamant Shield because she can hold it. So that's kind of like another character that I want to build, but I don't have the gear to build because I don't have speed gear. It's the same issue with Flurry. Elena's honestly just holding gear just because I need her for arena and stuff. Because for the most part, she can live in RB, S3. With Greater, it gets really close, but she still lives. And then she puts up invincibility. And then I kind of just hit auto and walk away. And that's kind of like my only use for Elena. I don't have an ambitious time win, so I can't run into things like, what is it? I can't run into Bazaar teams because of the unbuffable. And I can't run into a Benevolent Roman for the same reason, he puts the silence up. But if I ever by some miracle pull an ambitious tie win, then I'd be in a really good spot. I can use Elena a lot more, and I'd actually be willing to 6-star her because she can see a lot more play, because ambitious tie win de-spelling off the rip opens a lot of doors for her. Lilibet's still 5-star because she does her job as a 5-star. The only issue is that I only bring her with Ocelots, so she always has a soul burn. But if she doesn't have a soul burn, she's useless, which I guess is a downside, but I don't really care because that's just how I use her. I'm not bringing her to solo teams. Like, I'm not trying to build a 200 speed Lilibet to try and nuke out Arbis before they do anything. I feel like that's just unrealistic. But for where I do use her, she does her job. So that's kind of where it is. She's on destruction set because I know her base attack is low. So I was like, I might as well just try to jack her crit damage as much as I could. And so that's why she's on destruction set. crit sets just because I want to have max crit. Because I don't want to risk not critting an RB or something. Armin, she has Mola because of the meta where it was Dizzy plus Armin. And she would just perma-stun everything. Which I don't know why that fell off. It's still usable. I guess it just fell off because of all the Dispel in the meta, I guess? But I feel like it can still get used. Just Armin is super tanky and super slow, which is the issue. Like, she is dummy slow. So that could be the reason why it fell off, right? But I think it can still be used. She's an Aureus holder. Oh, God forbid she's on Elberus, where you have a debuffed unit just attacking because they don't have any other option and they get stunned. But, yeah, she's kind of gear hungry because she needs HP, defense, speed, and then she needs effectiveness, and then she probably wants effect resistance. It's a lot of gear that I do not have because I'm spreading my my tanky healer gear so thin because I'm trying to build so many tanks and healers, like back to back to back. Vildred is stripped. SSB is Hunts. Vivian I do want to build because she is she's sleeper, but after Jag and X's video on her, you see a lot more Vivians in the meta. But Vivian is good, man. Like, I pulled her when she first released again, and I didn't put any molas into her just because I didn't have any molas back then. And I don't have any molas now. Some things never change. But, like, she can do good damage. And she can live because of Dignus Orb. But, I just don't have the gear for it, which is unfortunate. My Destina, I could 6-star her and use her in PvP. She does her job. She has 200 effect resistance, which is good for PvP. And that's kind of all I really need from her is 200 effect resistance because I use her in hunts right now. But I could 6-star her and start moving her into PvP because she's not... Like, her base speed's really slow, don't get me wrong. And Ray is probably better than Destina for PvP dispelling. But I like waifus over husbandos, so that's why I tend to build more waifus over husbandos. That's why Destina has gear and I didn't even try to go for Ray, nor do I care to. I just like Destina more. And, yeah. Like, probably if I want to bring her into PvP, I could bring an Eternus on her or something, just in case, because she does get a CR push every time a unit who's debuffed takes a turn. But, she'd need molas and stuff that I do not have, because this thing needs to be max, and this would need to be max, and that is already maxed. So she literally need a complete, mola investment for PvP, if I ever wanted to use her. Which is unfortunate. G-Purge I never liked, so I don't use him. I tried him for Wyvern 13, that's why he has molas, and then I just couldn't get the stats I needed out of him, so I stripped him. Searman I used for a while, and I know that she's good. I just don't have the gear for her, because you want her to be fast, and her base speed is so low, it's so hard to work with. Eaton has kind of been just kind of sitting here, for the simple reason of you don't see D Corvus a lot. Right? Like, D Corvus is on defense have fallen off for the simple reason of he is very exploitable on defense. And now with Ruele, I don't need to, like, Ruele and LR Krau in my box, I don't need Eaton anymore. Because I have tanks that can do more of a job besides just sit there and eat Dark Corvus's S3s over and over again. And that's kind of the same thing with F Maya, she's good on counter, don't get me wrong, but I don't have Mola, so I can't put her on counter. And, that's kind of it. I used Blaze Dingo for raid. He does camp really well in a team that I believe has Vivian, Rose, Blaze Dingo, and Cham Zerato. I think that's the team, and it camps for like 48 morale, which is insane. I just don't have the gear for them, and those are units I don't really have, like, build very well. Assassin Kali got benched just because I don't have speed gear. Like, I think the fastest I can go on her is, let me just check. I think the fastest I can go on her is only, like, 250, 260, right? I think that's right. Whoops. This needs to be main stat speed. Yeah, the fastest I only go is, like, 250. I mean, I can change that. Wait, yeah, there we go. It's 280, and then she does, like, no damage. So, like, that's my issue with Akali. Again, I don't have speed gear. So, and like, you look at that and you're like, bro, you have 280 speed on an Akali, and you don't consider that speed gear? And I'm like, yes, because the speed gear is on defensive substats. Like, let's see, like, if you remember who I had it on. My Ruele had the helmet and it has F-res and defense. My Krau had the neck and its HP percent. And my Kluri also has a fast sword on speed set, but it has effectiveness. So that's kind of my issue. I don't really roll gear for speed subs. Like I do, and then they always just roll something else in a subset that I don't want, and then I just get rid of it. But that's like the issue with my account. I think my BBK is really good for a 5-star. Like 3.5k attack, 270 crit damage. And she's still only 5-star. Like I think that goes to like 4.2k attack. If I were to 6-star, maybe even 4.5, but I think that's being a little bit generous. But the issue is that she doesn't have immunity. And this will be eventually gear that I want to transition onto a Judge Kisei if I manage to pull her. And then she kind of needs immunity because you don't want her getting countered by FCCs and then her getting provoked and then her not being able to S2. So that's kind of like the main issue right now. So, and I mean, she has a lot of arena gear. Like, that's how long ago I built my BBK, and I haven't changed her gear. Well, like, the helmet has effectiveness. Like, if I put this gear on a judge right now, I think it'd be pretty good. And she has a little bit of effectiveness, which is nice for her D-spell and her CR decrease, but, it's not enough for it to make a difference. Like, you're not going to be CR decreasing at Ruele or something. That's just unrealistic. But, yeah, that's how my BBK. My Ocelot is slow. He's only 255, but he's honestly like kind of tanky just because of the his right side having an HP neck. But I don't really care about Ocelot enough because he's a cleave unit, and I don't cleave. That's kind of the issue. Seedom is another character that I want to build, but I don't have a reason to build her because I don't cleave. Like if I built my Lidica as a pure speed Lidica, then building Seedom would be worth it for me. Because Seedom plus Lidica is insane. The amount of damage you can put out with those two. Because Seedom brings her own Tagael's book, and that S1 plus Soulburn, it's insane how much damage it does. It's honestly like unhuman. Like you can one tap a Ruele with Proof of Valor, Aureus, and Adamant. And like you don't see that in a unit. Like I think Seedom is like has the highest potential nuke in the game. By far. But I just don't have the gear for her, and I don't have a reason to build her because her niche doesn't fit in with my my account right now. Chamzy is a unit that I should build, but I don't care to build. I never liked him. He's snarky, he's arrogant, and he's always just jacking himself off every time he gets a turn, right? So I'm tired of hearing his voice. So that's why he's just been chilling here. So 5-star. Sinji I want to build because I don't have an extinction unit. But again, she's very cleave focused with the speed and attack, and she can be used in bruiser comps. Don't get me wrong. SSB redirecting into Sinji is just 2 turns of a guaranteed 30% less damage. But I don't have the gear for it, honestly. So that's why it's not happening. And I'd also have to 6-star her. And but the good thing is that she doesn't require that many molas. Like bare minimum, she only requires this, and then everything else is just a niche. Ken got buffed and he has molas in him back when I started getting into the game and I needed him, but I don't really use him anymore, so I don't need him. Tenebria is a unit that I want to build because I like Tenebria. I always thought she was cool, but I don't have the gear for it. Like I kind of want to try on a counter. I tried it, didn't work. Her stats were too low. I could try her on speed, but I don't know yet. Well, that's kind of like the story of my account. I don't have the gear that I want to build all of these units that I want. So I'm just kind of making do with what I got. Acades is another unit who is like super good. And I have a rod for her, I believe. Phrasing. But I do have a spare rod of Amaryllis that she could use. Just, I don't have the gear. So that's the main issue. Kisei got buffed, which is huge, but I don't really care for her. Selena's a unit that I want to build because she, just the threat or presence of her there deters a lot of things like Oxlots, Cleaves, and, if you build her fast enough, she could, like, live the Cleave. Or she wouldn't live the Cleave, but, she can put up an evasion buff, and then she can possibly solo teams, which is huge. Just because depending on who she nukes out with her S2, it could be the cleaver itself, and then you're chilling, and because they don't have any damage. But it's a lot of RNG. Like, she requires a lot of gear that I don't have. Basar I've had for the longest time, and the only reason he has gear is because I used him in my auto teams for situations where my Alencia got resisted, and I didn't know if it was RNG on an ML Ken or if it was actually a resist Ken. I just brought Basar into it the second time, and I soul burned his S2, so I guaranteed that I got the strip. Rwanda's a unit that I literally just pulled yesterday, so that's why she's a 5-star, only 4-star wicked. I literally don't have the catalyst for her because I just built LR Krau, and they use the same sign. But I do want to build her on counter set. It's kind of it, honestly. Like, Rwanda's one of those units where you kind of just build and you know what she does. It's nothing like super special. Like, you never see Rwanda and you like wonder what she's gonna do. Everyone knows what Rwanda does. But it's just getting the gear so that she can do what she needs to do, which is the issue, as well as getting the catalysts. But like, I think like that's pretty good stats, right? Like I have good counter stats, I believe. I'd like to say for my healers and stuff, because I farmed so much Banshee when it first came out. Like, I think I had a full row within the first week. Like, I had like 7 pieces of 90 gear from Banshee because I got so lucky and I farmed so much of it because I didn't have a good 13 team for any other hunt. But I think that's it. Cerise would be good if I ever decide to clave because she has higher base speed. But yeah, I don't really care. Landy is another unit that I want to build just to try her out and just to have her, because in her niche she is unmatched. Like, she's a cleaver that can take hits, kind of. Like, you have to build her bruiser, right? But when there are buffs up, she will just S3 repeatedly, and that'll get very annoying very quickly if you do not have sustain on your team. Like, against Maid Chloe, she will kill that team without hesitation and without doubt. She will just S3, 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 and she'll push herself and she'll push her teammates, and then you'll be taking a lot of damage because it's an AoE cleave. And then, like, I see why Landy is good, and she's getting a buff soon, which is nice. But I don't have the gear for her. So I guess that's gonna be it. Like, this is an hour-long video, but just because there's like a lot that goes into a game like E7 where you can build your units so many different ways, and it's definitely an interesting game, and it kind of lets your individuality shine through. But it's all locked behind RNG, which characters you can and cannot get, which would also somewhat decide how you are going to build your units. If anybody wonders how many upgrade mats I have, I don't hoard that many. I have like 1 reforge of Azamanic and converted, and I have that many wyvern because I don't get that many wyvern pieces that are worth a damn. So that's kind of like the overlying issue, right? But yeah, that's the end of the video. That took a while, but here we are. If anybody's stuck around this long, then I hope you kind of understand the reasoning behind some of my builds. And yeah, I believe my guild is still recruiting, so if you have any guild questions, I have my guild leaders Discord in the description. As well, if you need to contact me directly, my socials are also in the description. If you want to see more Marvel 7 content from me, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It is greatly appreciated. It also lets me know that you guys want to see Marvel 7 content. And yeah, that'll be it. Have a good day, and as always, peace out.